Sorry, we're like
so that you're not like
scheming.
Oh, you're good.
I'm going to have to
We're all doing the same thing.
Yeah, that.
Hey, I think we're going to go ahead and get started today. First, welcome and thank you everyone for joining our webinar workshop today from the National Pesticide Information Center. I'm Amy Hallman. I'm a pesticide specialist with NPIC, and I'm here with Sean Roth, the developer of the NPRO search tool. So before we get started, I just need to cover a couple of logistics. If you're calling in on the toll-free number, please mute your line by hitting *6. If you're listening today over your computer speakers, please know that we've placed a globe mute on the computer microphones. We do expect a lot of questions and back and forth today, so if you have questions, when you have questions, please type them into the chat box on your screen, and after a brief introduction and a couple of quick demonstrations, we'll actually begin answering those questions. Today's webinar will be recorded and posted on our website shortly, so if you have colleagues that want to view the demonstrations in the future, they'll be able to do so. So today's title is NPRO, Search for Registered Pesticides Like a Pro. And I'd like to go a little bit over what is NPIC's mission, what is NPRO, and who is it for. Also, where the data come from for this product is important. And understanding where they come from helps us understand the limitations of some of the NPRO results. We'll go over a couple example uses for NPRO, and then we'll also go through actual demonstrations of the NPRO tool. Okay, so the National Pesticide Information Center, we are an objective information service for pesticide questions and pesticide product questions. We run a toll-free phone service from 8 to noon Pacific time or 11 to 3 Eastern, and we're funded through a cooperative agreement between the US EPA and Oregon State University. We answer about 11,000 to 12,000 inquiries per year from diverse audiences, some professionals, but mostly from the public. About 90% of our inquiries are from the general public. Our specialists provide science-based information, and they're able to translate technical information, and in some cases, literally translate bilingual information. We also are able to connect people with local resources if that's necessary. Our website has over 700 pages in English and Spanish, and it's a pretty popular website. We get more than 5 million page views annually, and we know that these are actual page views as opposed to automated computer hits or robot hits. Our publications also, we try to use popular topics from our audience. So if there's a new hot topic or a bunch of questions coming in that are similar, we might try to make a podcast or a video, some kind of publication that reflects those questions from our callers. NPRO is NPIC's new product research online tool. You can use NPRO to search for pesticide products by using up to 9 search fields at one time. You can also use NPRO when you have a product selected to link directly to EPA's pesticide chemical search. This is really handy if you're looking for active ingredient specific information like science reviews or regulation information. Also, you can use NPRO to look at federal label PDFs. And I do stress federal labels as opposed to state labels because we're using EPA data, so they are federal. NPRO was designed for professionals, and that's partially because it does require some knowledge of EPA's pesticide terminology. So sometimes the pest names or use sites may be something the general public isn't very familiar with. If a professional is working with pesticides on a regular basis, then it's going to be a lot easier for them to use this tool. So NPRO's data come from 2 main tools or databases, both from the EPA's Office of Pesticide Programs. So the Pesticide Product Information System is where the raw data come from. This is the actual active ingredient or registration number. And then the label PDFs come from Pesticide Product Label System, or PPLS. So because the data come directly from these EPA data sets, there are a couple of limitations. NPRO isn't actually going to verify any of that label information, and we're not going to edit any of the product data. It's directly being recalled from those 2 tools. Also, it's only going to include federally registered pesticide products. So any of those PDFs are going to be federal products. If you're using NPRO, there are many ways to search for products. Some of the simpler ways to search, an example might be when you already have an EPA registration number chosen and you'd like more product information, you'd like to look at the label PDF maybe. Another example, if you have 1 or multiple active ingredients and you only want to research those products that have those active ingredients, you can search by that. You can get more complicated examples. Maybe you'd like to research products that control a specific pest, but you'd also like them to be low in toxicity or have the signal word caution. You can search by those 2 terms, and then if you'd like to further reduce the list of products that you're looking at, you can refine your list by adding additional search criteria. So next I'm going to let Sean talk a little bit about some of the recent changes to NPRO.
Hi folks, thanks for coming. As Amy mentioned, I'm the developer behind this, the software. If you were here for the launch demo webinar of our previous version, then these are the things that have changed since then. I've added a few features to the system. It used to be that when you did a search, it searched through all with whatever was entered in all 3 of the tabs. And now that's optional. There's a button that lets you search only the currently open tab. People were having problems where they'd leave information on another tab and forget that it was there and then wonder why they weren't getting search results. You can now search for combinations of ingredients requiring any ingredients or all ingredients. It used to be, for example, ingredients, for example, also use sites and pests. It used to be that it was always any of them. We added a clear results button. People were looking for that. And then there's we added some lists of use sites available and a few other things, minor items there. Bug fixes mostly, little ones, and a disclaimer. So I think with that, Amy's going to get started showing you what's going on.
Yeah. Okay, so NPRO is available. We have a fully functional version online. So if you'd like to use this URL to follow along, play around with it during the workshop today, you're more than welcome to do that. If you have questions in the future, you can contact our 800 number or email us, and the specialists here at NPIC would be more than happy to walk you through using the NPRO tool.
No, you're fine.
Okay, so here we have the home page for the NPRO tool, and across the top you can see there are 3 tabs for entering search criteria, and then there's an About NPRO tab. So that's where the disclaimer and some of the other updated information is. Looking at the first tab, you can enter registration number, you can enter product name or registrant name. You can also select the second tab for active ingredients, pests, or use sites. And the third tab, we can look at product types, formulation, and signal word. So for the first example, this is a very simple one. I have a product for which I already know the EPA registration number. So I'm going to enter the EPA registration number, and then at the bottom I have 2 choices. I can either search this tab or search all tabs. Now for this example, because I haven't entered anything else in the other tabs, they work the same, but I like to get into the habit of using search all tabs. Some of you may prefer to use search this tab. Okay, so what we see is a list of total products with that federal EPA registration number. I'd only like to look at active products, so I can use the product legend to filter for active, canceled, transferred, or restricted use products. By clicking on active, I see there are only 27 active products with that number. So again, this is a very simple example, but I'd like to go into a little bit more detail to show you about what you see for each product. So I'm going to click on that top product, the 4-122, and we have a new tab open up in our web browser. This is great because you can use this URL at the top if you'd like to bookmark it, save it for later, compare it to other products that you can bookmark, or if you want to copy-paste it into an email to send to someone. This is very helpful. Looking at this product page, we see that the status for this product is active and the date it was active, also who the registrant is, the signal word and formulation, and then also the ingredients tab here, or excuse me, ingredients field. I love this field because it's not just what the ingredients are, also it has a hover feature. So for example, if I didn't know what the active ingredient was, it was maybe a more chemical name, I might hover over that ingredient and I see a list of synonyms. So this hover feature allows me to look for more easily recognizable active ingredients, and I can do that for each of these. Also, if I wanted to actually click on one of these active ingredients like carbaryl, what that would do is that's how it takes me directly to EPA's pesticide chemical search. That's where I can find active ingredient specific information, science reviews, or regulations. Also, you can see there's a pest field listed alphabetically here, a use sites field, and at the very bottom, type. So what type of pesticide is it? Okay. So, not to forget, the label PDF button at the very top, when I select this button, it also takes me to a new tab. And this is linking directly to EPA's website. You can see that in the URL, but it can be bookmarked, it can be emailed and shared. What's nice about this is that the other tabs, the product tab and the NPRO search tab, they're all still open, so I can go back and I can open multiple products to do a comparison at once if I want to. Okay, now that this example is over, I'm going to go ahead and clear all tabs on the right-hand side. That will make sure that in case I had something entered in another tab, it's now gone. What you see is that the results are still present at the bottom. Although it should not affect future searches, if you'd like, you can also do Clear All Results button on the right-hand side, and then you're left with a blank slate. Okay, for our second example, I'm going to look at products. I'm going to research products that have a specific active ingredient. So I go to the active ingredient tab, and I'm going to start typing in the word permethrin. You can see that as I start typing, a list of possible matches pop up. And this is a scroll bar option here. So there are many possible options that begin with the letters that I've typed in. If you'd like to see this list in a format that is a little bit easier to view, instead of using the scroll bar, on the right-hand side, you can click See All Ingredients. So this is opened in a new tab, but our original search is still there. We're going to start the search over by typing in permethrin again. And you can see that, again, we have a list of all of those ingredients that contain those letters. At the bottom, where it says Show Entries, by changing this to a higher number, you're less likely to accidentally chop off the last choices. So I usually select a high number, and that way I'm making sure I can see the entire list of active ingredients that contain the word permethrin in them. Also, they have PC codes and CAS numbers listed. Going back to the NPRO tab, this search box for active ingredient, I typed in the word permethrin, but you can also type in the PC code or the CAS number, and it will do the search just the same. So once I have the active ingredient I'd like to select, I can click it. And if this was the only product I was looking for, or the only active ingredient I was looking for, I could go ahead and do the search. But I want to do a little bit more complicated. I want to look for products that have permethrin and pyriproxyfen. So I start typing pyriproxyfen, I select it, and then what's important here is the Any and All tabs on the right-hand side. So the Any tab, you would select this button if you didn't care if the product had permethrin or pyriproxyfen. It could have one or the other. If you want to make sure all of the results have both active ingredients, go ahead and select All. And so that's what I'm doing for this example. And again, I'm going to go ahead and search. And I can see that there are 200 matching products. By filtering by active, there are 100 active products. And again, I could click on any of those and they would open in a new tab, and I could compare products between those tabs. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and clear all tabs because I have a third example today. Clear the results as well. So for the last example, I'm going to add an extra layer. I want to look for products that control bed bugs. So I'm typing that into the pest field. I'm going to select all of the options for bed bugs. And this is where the Any and All buttons come into play again. Remember, if I select All, then I'm restricting those products to having to list each of those pest sites. So instead, I'm going to select Any and make sure that any one of those pests would return a product. But I also want to make sure these products have a signal word of caution. So I'm going to the signal word tab, the drop-down list on toxicity signal word. I'm going to select caution. And then what I can do is search all tabs, because this time I know I have two search fields in different tabs. So there are quite a few products, almost 10,000. If we're looking at active products, there's over 1,300. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to further limit the results. I'm going to refine it by adding in a dust formulation. So I only want to look at those products that control bed bugs with a low toxicity signal word and their dust products. When I refine that previous search by using the Refine button, there are only 158 active products. So these were just a few quick examples of how you might use NPRO. At this time, I'd love to welcome questions.
Yes.
We have several that have come into this.
No,
we don't have any in the chat box.
We haven't actually had any questions in the chat box, other than some people were having trouble with the app's link. We do have a question. Okay. We do have a question from, here, let me make sure you guys can hear me. We have a question from Kurt Pluntke. He asks, can we not search for a product with two AIs? Just need clarification. Yes, we can search with, you can search for two AIs. You can search for multiple AIs, and you can require them, matching product to have both or either. That's what the Any and All buttons, radio buttons do. So Amy's doing an example right now with permethrin and pyriproxyfen.
Yeah, so when I type in permethrin and pyriproxyfen and I make sure that the All button is selected, the products that are returned at the bottom, the 100 active products, each one of those products has permethrin and pyriproxyfen. It may additionally have some other active ingredients, but I'm just going to select the first one, and we can see here it's 0.25% permethrin and 0.01% pyriproxyfen. So this product has both permethrin and pyriproxyfen. I hope that helps answer the question.
Yes, yeah, that did. Excellent. So let me just check the chat box here. What I was starting to say, a few people are having trouble with the link to the app itself. The NPRO needs to be uppercase in the link, and so I've sent that out in the chat box. But if you didn't happen to see it, I will fix that so that the lowercase one also goes there. There's no reason to do that. It just wasn't that way. So that's that people were having trouble with that. And Carrie Brennan asks, I'm a little confused about the search this tab or search all tabs. Are you referring to tabs within the browser or tabs in the in NPRO? It's the three tabs of NPRO itself. So you could put, say, a product name in the registration number name field tab, and then an active ingredient and in the AI tab, and that way you can find products named something with X active ingredient. So that's what those tabs are referring to, is the tabs within the app. So that's what that's about. Keep the questions coming. We've got plenty of time if you guys want. We're sorry about the audio. There's just enough people on that it would be awkward to have everybody's phones going at once. So if you can type them in the chat box to us, that would be ideal if you have any more. Okay. We have one from Jerry Barron. If you do a search in use site on crop group, will it sort out products with specific crops that are member of the group?
It's a good question. So I'm wondering if you have a specific example that you could provide. I'm going to go to see all sites. I think that's where this tab really shines, is when you're looking at sites. So for example, I'm assuming the group is going to be called something like 14A or something like that. I don't know if you can search by group. It might have to be specific, like strawberry. I believe that that's how you will have to search, is instead of by group, by actual site name. And then the groups are further designated based on, I'm assuming, tolerances and other similar things.
Yeah, we are at the mercy of the data that's provided to us. So it's just the use sites that are listed in the PPIS system, and we don't have a way of grouping those. So that I know of, and they're not grouped in the data. It's just a list. So I hope that answers the question. I don't think it does exactly what you're looking for in that case. We do have another question from Ted Dacey. Is your search capability available as a web service so other applications can make use of it? I haven't officially published an API for it, but if you want to contact me, we can talk about it. I do have, there's nothing that's actually locked down, and we are a public service, so I'm happy to help with that. I have some JSON, some queries that can be pulled out from behind the scenes that are publishing the search, that are accepting parameters and publishing the search results as JSON objects, so in a pretty standard way. And I'd be happy to talk to you about how to access that and what those capabilities are. So yeah, in theory, people could use the back end. I just haven't made any official published documented API, but it is pretty straightforward, and I can help with that. And I'll send Jerry. I'll send you a note with my email on the chat box privately. Let's see. We have another message. Sorry, that was Ted Dacey that was asking about the search capability. And I'll send you my email. Chad Schultz says thanks so much. And does this system have tolerance information? No, it does not. What it does do, I think Amy mentioned, when you get the to an individual product with the AIs, you can click on the AI name and it will take you to ChemSearch. And I think there's tolerance information in ChemSearch. And while Amy's checking that,
I'm wondering about that. It would depend on what was in ChemSearch.
Yeah, the that stuff is all kept separately, and it's not. We don't make it part of the system. So hang on, the browser's not catching up. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
And then while she's looking at that, I have another question. How often is the information updated? We update it approximately weekly. That's when the PPIS data sets are updated. So typically Tuesday or Wednesday is when that's updated.
To answer the previous question about tolerances, I went ahead and clicked on an active ingredient and linked directly to ChemSearch. Under other resources on the EPA website, it says tolerance information. So yes, you can get through it second-handedly by going through the ChemSearch. Right.
So it's not specifically part of our system, but we make it so that you can get there to some extent.
Right, and I think that has to do with the fact that tolerances are not often listed on the product, right? Because that has to do with breakdown in the field and other things as well. Great question.
Yeah, and that's something that that if we could combine the two, that'd be great. But I don't know.
Question from the Poison Control Center?
Hmm?
Is there a question from the Poison Control Center?
I don't think. I think we're.
I mean, this is meant to be interactive, so if you
Yeah.
have any questions, even about, how to use the field, we would be happy to show how to use NPRO.
Yeah, or if you had, an example that you would like us to try to find a particular product or something like that, we'd be happy to do that. And obviously, you can also call us at our 800 number that's on the on our website as well if you have further questions about it. And I would like to mention again that this is being recorded, so and will be put up on our YouTube channel as soon as I can get the recording converted and put up there, hopefully today or tomorrow. So if you had any trouble with the audio or anything like that, and you'll be able to view it again and get there. We have another question. Can you separate restricted use products from general use for one AI? Yeah.
Wow, yeah. So for that, you're going to get a lot of products back. It might be
a little slow.
It might be a little slow. For the active ingredient, for active ingredient, I'm trying to think of a restricted use. I mean, we can do methyl bromide.
We have another question after that, too.
Okay. So select methyl bromide, search, restricted use. I apologize.
Yeah, the screen, there you go. It doesn't resize that way.
Oh, it doesn't resize that way.
You'd have to reload it. But yeah, that shows you that those...
So these pink are all restricted use products. And if you select one, it also shows it's a restricted use product. I apologize, this is smaller now, I'm going to make it larger. Okay, so it shows it's a restricted use product, and it shows whether or not it's active or canceled in the product page. So I believe the way that it's designed is that when you're looking on the main screen at the result products at the bottom, the restricted use will show up whether or not this is an active or canceled product. So you have to click on it to make sure if it's active or canceled.
Right, for restricted use, yes.
Or only restricted use.
Yeah. She was looking for bifenthrin as an example.
Oh, and that's going to be huge.
Yeah.
There are a lot of bifenthrin products, but let's see what we can do. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this tab, make sure I got everything gone. Bifenthrin.
Hang on a second, it's catching up. The session's catching up still.
Okay.
There you go. Wait, nope, still.
Apparently I click way too fast.
Yeah, yeah, okay, there you go. Now
Okay, great.
Up again.
So it's looking for bifenthrin. And I'm going to go ahead and search this tab. Okay. So I'm going to limit by restricted use.
Right. We have a couple more questions too.
Okay. Okay, so 196 restricted use bifenthrin products. Again, it doesn't tell you whether or not these 196 are active or canceled. You'd have to look at a specific product to see that. So this is an active restricted use product that I just clicked on.
And it hasn't caught up yet.
Yeah, it'll catch up in just a second. There it is. And so you can see that status at the top and whether or not it's restricted use. So I hope that is helpful for searching for products that are restricted use.
Okay, we have two more questions that have come in. One from Chad. Does this system provide Section 18s or 24C registrations? I don't remember if those are included in PPIS or not. If it's in PPIS, then it's part of it.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
For those ingredients or for those products.
I'd have to look. I'd have to double check about that. So I'm sorry I don't have that answer off the top of my head. But I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, we can check back with you after the webinar.
And then, yes, Kathy, this is, we tend to get this question when we talk about this. Could NPRO include information on whether a pesticide product is conventional, a biopesticide, or USDA organic? Unfortunately not. Those aren't, especially the organic one is one that I've heard from before. Those aren't part of the data set from PPIS. They aren't stored as a product attribute. So with that said, what we're going to be continually improving this, and I know that the EPI Office of Pesticide Programs is working on a new data format for some of this stuff. They may be publishing additional things. I'm not sure, but if that information becomes available in a data set, we will be able to use it and take advantage of that. And we'll be continually keeping an eye on those things and adding that anything we can as stuff moves forward. So we'd love to add some of those features. And we always are open to suggestions for additional features that if it's possible. That's how most of these new buttons and features got added. So that's, yeah, sorry, but those pieces of information aren't available yet. Let's see. And Peter says, can you search for a product name with keywords? For example, can I type raid spider and see what products come up with those words in the product name? And
you can, but there's a problem with that, and that's that a lot of products don't actually share the same name with their federal label. This is one of the limitations from NPRO only because of how pesticide products are named. So if I were to type raid spider, it would look for products that have that in the name, but only in the order in which you type them. So if you are looking for a product that says raid spider and you just type those words in, there are no products that have raid and spider in that order.
But you could search for raid and then refine it for spider.
Right, so you could search for raid. I'll do that. Search this tab just for raid products. Okay, so we have raid products. And then, let's see, you would refine it.
Right.
By typing spider.
Right. And then
let it catch up, yeah. And then selecting refine previous search. Again, I think that's just a limitation of the name of the product.
What it says is that there don't appear to be.
There don't appear to be any federally labeled products with raid spider in the name.
Right.
So a lot of times having the EPA registration number is very important if you're looking for an individual product.
Yes. Okay, that's it for questions right now. Does anybody else have anything? Okay, here we go. Another one, are those EPA numbers usually found on consumer product labels?
Always.
There you go.
Absolutely. Every product, unless it's a minimum risk pesticide, so unless it is exempt from registration. Disinfectants that are registered disinfectants, herbicides, insecticides, they all have an EPA registration number on the label. Most of the time, you're looking for a number that has dashes. That's the easiest way to describe it. But it has the words or letters EPA reg number or EPA registration number, and then those numbers and dashes. Sometimes there's only two numbers separated by a single dash. If there is a third number at the end, that just means it's distributed by a different registrant. So it's still the same as the federal label with the first two numbers, but that extra number might look a little different in the store to a consumer. But all products have them on the label. Sometimes we talk to people who have a booklet that maybe came with their product and they lost the booklet. Sometimes the EPA registration numbers might be on that booklet they lost. But a lot of times it's printed right on the bottle, sometimes on the back, near the bottom, or near the address for the company. There's no standard, so it changes from product to product. And they're often very small print, hard to read.
Anybody else? Well, if nobody else has any questions, then we can end. Thanks to everybody for participating. We can hang out for a couple minutes if people do have any more questions. But thanks for participating. Again, this will be recorded and posted, and feel free to talk to us. I will follow up. Tricia asked a question. Does the system lead you to an EPA project manager for a product? It does not. The product information in PPIS includes a project manager. I just haven't included it in the results set. You're honestly the first person that's ever asked for it. That is something that I could include if there's a demand for it. But we hadn't. It has the contact information, the name and contact information. I honestly felt a little. I mean, I know they publish that information, and I know it's public, but it's kind of hard to get to, and I felt a little weird about putting people's names and mailing addresses and phone numbers out on this without their permission. So that's why I didn't do it.
Isn't it indirectly linked through ChemSearch?
It may be in ChemSearch as well. Yeah, you may be able to find that in ChemSearch. I'm not positive about that, but there is a contact in the product information database. And Trish says that she'd like to see it included. So that's something that I'll put on my list of stuff to add. Again, we do like to hear about how people are using this and what they might find useful, and if it's something we can accommodate without too much trouble, I'll definitely try to do it. So thanks for the feedback on that. And I'll follow up with the previous person that asked the question about the API. I'll send you my email address here in just a second. And other than that,
yeah, just remember that if you have questions, you can email us if we're not open. If you'd like to call our 800 number, 1-800-858-7378. You can call us during open hours and talk to a specialist, and we might be able to walk you through an example that can help with your question. So please do contact us with questions.
Okay, I sent Ted a message with my email address in it. Feel free to contact me about the API. Yeah, I think that's it on questions. I don't think we missed anybody. If we did, I apologize. I'm trying to keep a close eye on the chat box. Yep. Looks like we got everything so far. Okay. Yeah. Thank you again.
I see there are still several people listening in. If you had questions that weren't answered today, definitely send us those questions, and we'd be happy to help. And we're going to go ahead and end the webinar now. So thanks for attending, everybody.
Thank you.